Good morning. How's everybody doing?
Good.
All right, excellent.
Yeah.
Let's jump in. My name's Dave Smith, and what we're going to do today, it's going to be pretty flexible, and it's going to be based on whatever the feedback is that we go through, but I think that the objective that we want to do is kind of talk about water treatment, water in general, and then get to kind of point the conversation towards what the solutions are for particular problems or for particular things that are affecting the water. And I think, and then we kind of strayed into this area yesterday a little bit, but it's not necessarily that there's a problem with the water, as much as it is, are we getting the water to where the customer's expectations are? And that's different from whether it's a homeowner versus if it's a coffee shop versus if it's somebody who's running a boiler, something like that. So all of those expectations of what the water quality is going to be vary. So the solutions that are attached to those are going to, as you can imagine, they're going to be different. They're going to be all over the place. The good thing is that no matter what those expectations are, no matter where the water needs to be and where it started from, you've got a good platform, you've got a good foundation to start from for who can provide those pieces of equipment, the knowledge and background, and then your points of contact for who you're working with. So if there's questions, you know where to go. I like working at Pentair. I've been at Pentair now for 26 years. Most of it's been on the valve side of the business, where we make valves up in Wisconsin. One of the big things that I enjoy, though, is that over these last 20 years, gaining those businesses in addition to the valves, and then learning what all those things, what they do together, it's been a lot of fun. So I get kind of excited about talking about all the different things and learning about everything that's happening out in the field. I worked on the line at Brookfield, where we make the valves. I worked on the line for 13 years, putting valves together, putting them in boxes, shipping them out to customers. And in that 13 years, I learned how water flowed through a valve. I learned how to read the flow meters on what the expectations were. Put the valve on, turn the switch, turn on the pressure, read the meters. But I didn't know anything about what they were being used for. I didn't know anything about what your customers were asking you, what they were facing out in the field. So within the first couple of years of actually getting out and being out in the field and seeing the things that you guys are seeing and dealing with the things that you're seeing out in the field, I learned more in that first year and a half than I had in the entire 13 years sitting there on the line and building valves. So that's what I enjoy. So if there's questions, don't be afraid to ask questions, okay? We're going to try and keep this going. I like to keep it kind of open format. If there's questions, if you have interaction, if you have questions like, I don't understand that, I think you're wrong. Old man, I think you're wrong. Don't be afraid to say it, all right? And we can work through that. I'm not saying you're right, but it might be the case. I'm not averse to going off script a little bit, all right? So hopefully that helps everybody. I want everybody to get something out of the day today. And as we go through this, we'll have fun. Is that fair? Okay, so where we're going to start is kind of from foundationally. How much, just out of curiosity, how much experience would any of you, I think just working with Rusty yesterday, you were around, we were asking questions, I mean you were around, they were with Denise and everything about asking questions about water treatment and everything. How much, well, Alex, a month and a half or whatever it is, how much experience with water do y'all have? Is it a starter? Is it just they ask for a particular component, you give it to them type thing?
Water treatment?
Yeah.
Yeah, not much.
Okay. Well, hopefully after today, it'll be a little bit more than not much. The good thing is that you get points of contact like with Joy and then with Pentair in general with Jenny, and you're, if you have questions, we can address all those questions. All right. So where are we going to start from? Let's talk about Pentair a little bit, where the stuff comes from. All of the things that we talk about today are going to be Pentair components. They're made in a variety of manufacturing facilities. I'm going to focus in on these right here. Our manufacturing facilities in Wisconsin, we have 2 facilities. Brookfield is the one where all of our manufacturing is done. So if any of y'all are traveling through Wisconsin, and you got some time on your hands, like, hey, I want to go do a plant tour. That sounds exciting. You're with your wife, you're on your honeymoon or whatever. Let's go do a plant tour. Don't be afraid to reach out, and we can set that up. I always throw that out to everybody because we enjoy having anybody who's using our stuff come through, and we'll walk them through Brookfield and show them where the valves are made. I have a lot of familiarity with Brookfield, and I know the people there. If you want to do a plant tour at Chardon where we make the tanks, we could probably make that happen. We'd have to reach out to some other people. But the main thing is what we have here is a partnership. What we have here is we're making things, iFilter's putting them together, and you guys are just selling and distributing them, and we want to make that work as best for everybody. So I look at it as a partnership. If you want to come up and see where this stuff's coming from, come on up. Just let us know, all right? All of these manufacturing facilities in the United States actually make components for North America. So every single valve that you're getting on a softener, on a backwash filter, commercial, residential, whatever size it is coming from Brookfield, Wisconsin. And that plant has been there for about 40 years now, a little over 40 years. And it's kind of impressive when you go there because it's not a huge building. So when you think about all those valves that you've been working with out in the field, if you go driving around in neighborhoods, you see them out in backyards or whatever, the fact that they all came out of that building is kind of, I always used to stand on the floor and look around and be like, because we'd be pushing out 25600s a day, 25600s a day, boom, boom. And at some point, everybody's got to have one, right? Like, where are these all going? With that being said, water treatment in general, so water treatment in homes in the United States and Canada, it's only got about a 15% penetration rate. Now, when you consider like the pitcher filters and things like that, you get up more in between 40 and 50%. But the truth is, there's a lot of opportunity out there. And it's kind of inherent on us to let people know what you can do with your water. In general, I'm going to throw this out there. In general, would you say water quality is getting better or worse?
I think better.
You think it's getting better? Now, when you say that, do you say, okay, from the city, from the supply that you're getting?
Yeah.
Okay. I would say that the general impression in other areas, like Florida and places like that, is that water's getting a lot worse in quality. And it has to do not with just how water's, and what's your name?
JP.
JP? That's not just because of how water's coming out of the ground or out of the river or out of the lake or whatever. It probably has to do with how we're using the water, how we disinfect the water, what we put back into the water, and then probably has a lot to do, JP, with what are we looking for in the water.
Yeah.
So like a lot of that stuff might have been there the whole time, and now somebody brings up awareness of it as emergence.
Now it's an issue.
Yeah. Something to consider. It's kind of like the air quality. You know, greenhouse gases and all this, and everything's going up, and we're headed towards doom. Some of the things that we do as human beings and that we're introducing back into the water supply are becoming more and more prevalent too. Like all the pharmaceuticals that people are digesting, and then that goes back into the wastewater system, and then that goes back into the water supply system. There's no treatment process for that stuff. There hasn't been historically. So now those things are starting to come back around into our water supplies as well. And I think that our focus on that and how do we take care of that is becoming more and more of an issue. Chardon is where we make all of our pressure vessels for North America. So every tank that you get, no matter what color it is, no matter what size it is coming from Chardon, Ohio. Now that's just east of Cleveland. Beautiful area right there on Lake Erie. And again, huge facility. That's a big facility because we're doing pressure vessels there. In the United States, every tank you get is made in the United States. Every valve, every tank you get is made in the United States. Our manufacturing facility in Dover, New Hampshire is where we make filter cartridges. One of the things we're going to talk about today is starting off with filtration, is some of these cartridges. I think the general impression is, and we talked about it yesterday, like a lot of people doing water filtration. They're looking for a cost, they're looking for price, and there's not a lot of focus on value. There's not a lot of focus necessarily on quality, it's just what's the cheapest thing. And I think that what that leads itself towards is that the point of view is, well, this stuff's coming from overseas. A lot of this stuff's manufactured, it's commodity, it's dime a dozen, so it's all being manufactured overseas. The truth is, a lot of the stuff that we make at Pentair, even in cartridges, like this cartridge right here, is manufactured in the United States. So we're still doing a lot of the made in the market for the market. And I know in my experience, a lot of your customers, that means something to a lot of the customers if it's made in America. We could probably do a better job of letting people know, of saying that we do what we do. That's something that we've been working on. But I think it's important to be able to say that to the people all the way down the chain, all the way from the homeowner to the person who's installing the system, replacing the cartridges, all the way through all of our partners in distribution and in assembly and everything as well. So a lot of the stuff, we have manufacturing plants in the United States that make stuff for the United States. Has anybody ever heard the history about what Pentair, where we came from? It's interesting. Well, I don't know if it's interesting. I'll fudge there a little bit. So Pentair, it's been around since 1966. And it started off as 5 guys who all got together. So 5, that's where the Penta comes from. Pentair is 5 guys who all got together, and they had a common enthusiasm for ballooning. That seems a little weird. I've never been part of one of those crews where, hey, let's go hot air ballooning this weekend, shall we?